Goldman Sachs is a stock you would have wanted to own as of recent. We can see it's up 75% on the year. That is clearly phenomenal. However, when you keep zooming out, it doesn't get any worse. We can see over the last 5 years, it's up 170%. The S&P 500 is only up about 90% over that time frame. So clearly it has done very well, like double the S&P 500 performance very well. And if we zoom out even further, since about 2014, it is up a lot as well. It's about 3x roughly. It also pays a substantial dividend at about 2%. That is more than the S&P 500. It's not a crazy dividend. This isn't a dividend-centric stock. However, 2% dividend is also nothing to scoff at all. So clearly Goldman Sachs has been the stock to own. Let's dive a little bit more into the financials. We can see its PE is right around 17. You may say this is super cheap. It is still probably considered in that value stock category. However, we have to understand the category that it's in, the type, its peers, its other stock peers, and their PEs. And this is actually relatively high for financial institutions. Their PE is about 17. Usually you don't see them go much higher than 19 nowadays, right? Certainly the profitable ones. Maybe there's some smaller ones. I'm talking the larger, hundreds of billions of market cap, financial institutions, right? The Ford PE is 16. So is this a expensive stock? Well, it depends on what you mean. It is expensive compared to some, but it is really not expensive when you compare it to the broader market, right? Like compared to a tech stock. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of tech stocks that have insane growth, high PE. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it is clearly, if there was a recession, those things would be hit harder. Goldman Sachs would do decent, although they are primarily investing, so it wouldn't do that great either. I'm not going to say this is a great recession hedge. It's clearly not. However, you do have to factor in that this is a decent value stock, right? It's significantly below S&P 500, but many of its peers are in the, in the industry that they're in. You can see clearly all the earnings are projected up significantly, so they are growing pretty easily. They just hiked their dividend. You can see that. Is clearly good, and their dividend has been dramatically increasing, similar with the share price, right? I mean, look, you'd be paying out 2.6, now you're paying out 10 per share. That's 5x since 2016. That's not even a decade, right? So Goldman Sachs, I mean, if we're being honest here, for what they are, this is about as good as you can expect, right? Over a decade performance, even plus. I'm sure you can find other times where it would have been better. However, for me, usually, longer than 5-year performance or 10-year performance is fine. But usually when you start going past 10 years, there can be a lot that changes. So 10 years is usually a good standpoint to go from. Over the last 10 years, for the industry they're in, for the company that they are, you basically can't ask for more. They have done so well with what they're given, right? It's just phenomenal, right? From the dividend, basically 5xing over, an 8-year, 9-year time frame. From the share price, doubling the S&P 500 performance, right? Just everything. This stock has done so well. If you don't have anything in this, capital markets industry and the financial institution industry, and you want some diversification into it, Goldman Sachs will probably do you very well. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. I like this stock. I don't personally own it, not because I don't like it. I do own similar peers. Morgan Stanley has also done very well. I own it. I own a few others kind of in the industry, but Goldman Sachs is a very good company, and it's not because I own it because I don't like it. It's just because capital is finite, right? But Goldman Sachs it seems to be a very, very, very good pick for a company, right? We can see Schwab gives it a C rating. They think it's going to be in the top 31%. This is borderline B. I believe a 30 is a B. So this is as close to B as you can get. You may see C and say, oh, that's a bad rating. The average, it's kind of misleading because you think C is bad. But if you think about it, every stock, they rate it. Most stocks go up in any given year, right? The S&P 500. So a 50 percentile rating is actually decent. It's not amazing. 31 is actually a pretty good rating, right? So we can see 2 stars, narrow economic. I hate the 0, 3, 10 scaling. I'd probably lean it more towards wide than narrow personally, but we're splitting hairs at this point, right? 5-star, buy, long, buy. I don't know all the extended history of Goldman Sachs. I do know around this level, I was keeping a pretty strong eye on it. And it was closer to 10 PE. So the PE is a little bit elevated. However, they've been doing great. And a lot of that is post-election, there's been a big run-up after that too. So like I said, in terms of financial institutions, this may be slightly high. However, if you're holding this as a long-term investment, wouldn't be worried at all. We can see 14 of the 22 analysts say this is a buy, 7 say hold, 1 says underperform. Wouldn't worry too much about that. All right, it's just one dude. It's basically fine. I don't love analysts' opinions, but it's good to factor into the broader picture. And one thing I did just see, they consistently beat on earnings. So it seems like, if anything, these projections might be a little bit low. But anyways, that's mostly all I got. This seems to be a great company. They're in an industry that's actually fairly tough to derive a lot of profit, and they've done an excellent job as a long-term investment. I don't have any worries about this. Of course, not investment advice, however. Anyways, I appreciate if you watch this video. I'd appreciate if you left a like or subscribed if you like the content and want to see similar. I do daily stock videos on this channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm out a lot when people subscribe. YouTube's like, oh, people like this content, and my videos get pushed out a lot. So I really would appreciate if you did that. But anyways, I appreciate all you watching, and I'll catch you next time.